This podcast brought to you by Basecrete, leaders in waterproof bond coatings for the swimming pool and construction industry.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast. Today I'm here with Lee Russell. Lee's going to be talking with us a little bit today about custom luxury in-ground pools, and we're happy to have you with us today here on the show, Lee.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe.
So, Lee, the reason I wanted to have you here with us today is because, as one of the leading builders in Baton Rouge, basically you have a keen insight as to the buying habits of people who want to build luxury custom in-ground pools. Talk about your role in the pool industry and what you're doing in Baton Rouge in terms of helping people realize their dream of building their ultimate custom luxury in-ground pool.
Yeah, perfect. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be able to speak to this as well. We've been fortunate to grow like we have over the years. My grandfather started our company in 1964, so we're 50 plus years now, and we were in a small market that we're in. There weren't a whole lot of pool builders through the years. There are a whole lot more now. I've seen the number of pool builders have probably, if not tripled, quadrupled in the last 2 or 3 years. Folks are wanting to spend money in their backyards, and they're willing to, and so people are starting to jump on it. But we were fortunate because in a small market with 3 or 4 builders, we were able to build a business that has been able to stand the time, stand the economy, the recessions that we've had over the years. We've seen all the different cycles go through with the economy. But we've been able to position ourselves in a way that in Baton Rouge, just about everyone knows who Russell Pool Company is. Even if they're not buying a pool, they have probably swam in one of our pools because we've done just so many over the years. And that's just kind of a small market, that helps us out a lot.
I heard your dad actually got you your start in the pool industry. Is that a fact?
Yeah. So my very first day in the field was when I was in kindergarten. I jumped off a swing set and busted my head up, and he had to come check me out. And instead of taking me to the house or to the doctor, we went out and I went to work with him. And so I've been in it ever since. When I was 12, my grandfather brought me on, and I worked all summer with him. And as a 12-year-old, he was paying me $75 a week, pretty much to be his pack mule and to be his partner and his buddy throughout the summer. And it was an absolute blast. I loved it. I have tried over the years to leave the pool business. Gone and I've done a bachelor's degree, and I've got a master's degree, and I started a PhD, and I've tried to do other things, and it's just in my blood, and it's the only way I can describe it. Something that I enjoy it. I love what we are able to do. It's frustrating. Everybody gets frustrated, and no matter what they do, no matter how much you love your job, you're going to get days where you don't love it, but that's just life, and that's work. But I get to do something that I enjoy. I get to create every day. I get to do, I'm starting to do some more designing now, and that's to be able to do that is, that's special. Not everybody gets to do something that they love.
Yeah, it sounds like you got chlorine in your blood, and that's what keeps drawing you back.
Hey, no doubt.
I've seen some of the other guys in the pool industry, they go on to other things and they explore other business prospects and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But ultimately they find that the pool industry allows them to explore the more creative side of their nature and, build things. And that's really why gravitating back towards pools.
Correct. I've always loved to work with my hands. Even when I was a teenager, I would take computers apart and rebuild them, and I took my car apart and rebuilt it. I've always enjoyed the mechanical side of things and being able to see how things work. So, I'm actually building and creating something, and I'm trying, different things and new things. And, we've been doing this for 50 plus years. I could just do it the same way my grandfather's always done it. And, it wouldn't necessarily be bad, but, I like to try new things. I want to try to make it better. I want to try to be more efficient. I want to try to do something different and, expand what we can do, and just try to push the industry, push other builders to be better, and to do things the right way. So
yeah, for sure. I've seen some of your design work, and I've seen some of the pools that you built, and you kind of run the gamut in terms of the different design styles. You're pretty diverse. So I've seen some style backyards where it's more of like traditional kind of free form design and like brick around the edges, and brick
Correct.
pavers. And then I've seen some really modern design pools that you've done that were just like really like cutting edge and look like, like they ought to be on the cover of Architectural Digest. So I mean, you really run the gamut there.
Yeah, I mean, so being in Louisiana, our architecture is a lot different than most places in the country. We have these huge live oak trees, and we have a lot of brick and a lot of stone work, and so traditional just fits in a lot of these backyards that we come across. But ever so often, there's someone who is come in from another part of the country that wants to bring that modern style in, and we will absolutely jump on that as well. I love to do modern design and modern pools. I wish I could do that, all the time, but that's just not my market.
Yeah, I know. Well, they kind of want like more traditional, more natural look in your neck of the woods, and I think that's really what is like becoming known as the New Orleans style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a real famous architect who was based here. His name is A. Hayes Town, and he has had a tremendous impact on Louisiana architecture, the way the houses are built and the styles. And they're just some, when I go in his backyard, I know what kind of pool that we're putting into those houses. That is just that, quintessential, iconic New Orleans. You've got the brick and you've got the bluestone, or I wish we could still get the lilac that we used to be able to get, but you can't get lilac stone as often as we could. We did quite a few pools with the purples, and it's just really cool. But one of the things that we're doing is, and I've got a really good landscape architect I work with. His name's Ryan McKnight. He has done really well with it. Is taking this traditional style that we have and that our houses are built in, and adapting some of these modern themes and modern ideas into them. And we've done some pretty cool work, he and I together with that.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to your to what you were saying before, like you can't always get the materials that you want.
Right.
I mean, basically, I read in an article that you were in last year, where you said that pools were up 15 to 20% because of COVID. I mean, is that still the case this year? And are you still having a lot of difficulty getting the materials that you want to build the pools that your customers really envision?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I probably get 5 to 10 calls at least a week, if not 15 to 20 a week, of people who want a swimming pool. And the reality is our business model is not one that I'm not a volume builder, so I can't do 400 pools a year.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have that ability. I mean, we're kind of capped at 70 at the very most. I think that's probably the most we've ever done, but most of the time we stick around 50 to 60 pools a year. And so, when I'm getting 400, 500 calls a year, and I can't get to that, that's hard. I wish I could, but of course that again opens up why there are more builders in my neck of the woods, because I can't get to them all, and so I'm essentially putting people in business to do it. But as far as materials go, I mean, I think it's worse today than it was a year ago, to be honest with you. There are between what Pool Corp, they're lagging behind and getting their orders in from the manufacturers on equipment. Materials are getting tough. Yeah, I used to be able to get, for instance, I've got a pool that's got Pennsylvania bluestone going in, and I get that direct from the quarry in Pennsylvania. And I used to be able to get it in a week or two, and now it's 6, 8, 10 weeks out, just because they got so much work that they've got. They're limited on their employees who can do the work, and and that's just one example. It's like that in everything. I've got a container of white quartzite that's sitting at the port in China that cannot get put into a container to come to me, just because of the way things are right now. And I've had that order in since February. I'm just waiting. Material sold. Fortunately, that the houses that they're going into are under construction, so I'm not pressed to get it in to get finished. But I've got one pool that I've got the coping on, but the deck is not finished. But they're swimming. I went on and finished it, and
Customer is giving you a lot of grief.
Well, yeah, absolutely they are. I mean, they want to, they're ready to swim. It's hot here. It's been hot for a couple months, and now it's really, really hot, and everybody wants to be out in their backyard, and they've got kids. They want their kids out of the house and in the pool. And so, yeah, we get a lot of pressure from our clients. And, when something that used to be able to take me 6 to 8 weeks to finish, now I'm looking 10 to 12. And that's, that makes it tough. And you don't want to lie to your client and say, hey, we're coming this week, and your material doesn't show up, so you're having to prep them at the front end. It's going to take longer. Materials you're picked, well, it is what it is. It's just going to take that long. But that's just about every material that we're ordering in now is taking several weeks longer to get in.
I heard you speaking about skilled labor too. I mean, I know that's still a problem.
Always. Yeah. I mean, when you can stay at home and not have to work and pull a little bit of a check, yeah, there's a lot of folks that don't want to work. Of course, I'm not sure I really want those folks working for me that aren't willing to do something. But yeah, skilled labor is, oh man, it's tough. Used to be able to find guys that were willing to work. Now it's just, you're lucky to get a crew that's got 3 or 4 guys that are doing all the work. I don't know that that's going to get any better, to be honest with you. I don't foresee that getting better in our industry. Maybe I'm wrong. So I think the guys who are running the companies and the top end guys, the management in our industry, I think are getting better. There's a lot of guys doing Genesis classes at Watershape University, and they're learning, they're getting better. The problem is none of that education trickles down to the subcontractors and to the guys who are actually doing the work. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I know how to build a perfect pool to all the codes and to every spec that you would, anything that you wanted to do. But the reality is, when it comes down to it, I don't have my hands on everything. And it's, if I leave the job for 5 minutes and come back, those crews have done something that I didn't want them to do every single time, every job. And we've got to redo work and fix things because of it. And it makes it tough.
Yeah, because you're not a Hydra. I was listening to your podcast on Pool Chasers, and it struck a chord with me. It was when you said how you would do more glass tile and you'd love to be doing more of that, but that disseminating information on how to properly apply and install it is tough because the subs won't travel for education.
Correct. It is. In fact, the reason I was late for our interview tonight was I've got a crew that's putting glass tile down, and I had to swing by there just to make sure there wasn't any issues, with what they were doing. When I do it, I want to make sure that they've got the substrate right and the waterproofing right, and that they're putting it down properly with, their thin sets. And it's just so much oversight it gets hard to do on these high end jobs, sometimes. But we'll get it done. I have to be 10 minutes late. I'm 10 minutes late, but we'll get it. And what's bad is I'm leaving town tomorrow, and I'm not going to be there to check them tomorrow afternoon when they're wrapping everything up. So it kind of makes me nervous.
You need a top construction super to be your eyes and ears on the job when you're not around. That's the thing.
Yeah, I've got a guy that he's pretty close to that, but I mean, he's getting pulled so many different ways too. Just because I've got so much work going on, and it's tough being a small family business for sure.
Yeah, I know it's challenging building a pool down in Baton Rouge. I mean, just the weather alone can kick your face in.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, this year we are about 30 inches above average right now on rain. Mm-hmm. We got hammered in May. There was one weekend in 3 days we got 13 inches of rain in 24 hours. And when the ground gets that saturated, and now it's hot, so it rains every single afternoon. It's really hard to get work done, especially glass tile. We went and had to build a tent on this particular job to be able to get those guys to work all day, because as soon as it would start raining, they'd pull off and go.
How do you stay on schedule, Lee? I mean, when you got to spend half the day mucking your pool out before you can even get the day started.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really hard, but we managed to do it. I'll ask my guys to work late some days if we have to. We've been doing this for so long, and that's one of the reasons I stayed in Baton Rouge, is because I know our weather and our ground, and so I know how to kind of combat some of those issues before they even happen. When I was younger, I considered moving out west and going to build pools out west. That's a whole different environment. You've got different things that you face there, whether you're, like for instance in LA, you're working with cliffs and hard rock and things like that, where I don't have any hard. If I hit a rock, it's a small pebble. Everything I've got is clay and mud, so I don't have to break out a breaker to build a pool. Whereas some guys in other parts of the country, they don't go to dig a pool without a breaker on their trailer.
Where I live is El Dorado Hills, right? And there's a town right next to it called Granite Bay, right? So that's all you're gonna hit. It's all you're gonna hit.
You know what you get when you get that on your plan, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's how we are here, though. I know the different areas of our city and the kind of the soils that I'm gonna run into. So a lot of times I'm able to prevent a lot of the issues that a lot of my competitors have, because I've done this so many times and I know how to dig these pools so I don't have those issues, and so I can stay on schedule. Because for us, for me, it's schedule is everything. We want to make sure everything is working like it, and that's what really throws us in a kind of a tizzy, is when I can't get materials on time, or I've got 5 straight days of rain and I can't get a pool shot, and things like that. That's when my stress levels go through the roof, because I can't stay on schedule. But
I found that like builders from Louisiana are really highly knowledgeable and technical builders. I mean, I think it's because it rains so much. I mean, does that really like add a level of complexity if you're like on expert mode as a builder?
Yeah, it does. And I would also say there's probably a lot of builders here, if they weren't working in a plant at some point, maybe their father was. So a lot of guys here have some of that mechanical knowledge, because of we're so blue collar in Louisiana. Everybody's got a family member that works in a plant or works on a boat somewhere, or on a rig, or in the oil fields, and that's our industry is so based in that a lot of guys and individuals and ladies, they just have that skill set to apply that wherever they go, whether it's in the pool business or any other construction industries. We're able to, I don't know, it's just kind of part of who we are, I guess, in some ways. When you want to build something in the mud, you've got to get creative sometimes.
Well, I mean, do you have to kind of forecast for that as a business owner? I mean, is keeping up with the weather and kind of being a prognosticator of what the weather is going to be like, does that have to be part of the formula of being a builder down in that neck of the woods?
It is, and it's frustrating because, you've got one eye watching the forecast and watching what's coming in, because, for instance, last year we had 3 hurricanes that hit Louisiana, 2 of them in the same weekend. So you've got one eye watching, and then at the same time, your other eye is just ignoring it, because if I were to not work on a day that says 60% chance of rain, I'll never get anything done, because literally every day last week and every day this week has been 60 to 70 to 80% chance of rain here. And last week I didn't get hardly any rain. And so I take the forecast and we look at them, and we've gotten pretty good at being able to, to tell when things are really going to be as bad as they say they're going to be, and when the forecaster is just wrong. And we have come to learn most weather forecasters really don't know how to forecast weather.
Yeah,
they can give a good educated guess. Learn
it's a magic 8 ball.
Right. Well, one thing I did learn not long ago is, though, that so when they say it's a 75% chance of rain, it's not so much that it's going to be 75% out of 100% chance of rain. What it is 75% of their coverage area is going to get rain. Mm-hmm. So if they've got 100 square mile coverage area, only 75 of it's getting rain. If you've got a pool in that 25 and you didn't work, you've missed a day of work. And so, when I've got a 50% chance of rain, and there's a good chance I'm gonna miss it, or if it does, it's only for a few minutes. And so we'll still go out and we'll work, and if it rains, we'll get under cover. I don't like my guys getting wet, because then they're miserable the rest of the day. We'll try to get out of the rain and see if it passes. If it stays for an hour, man, we're going to leave. But most of the time, most of these storms are gone in 20-30 minutes, and you can get right back in the hole and start working. Yeah. You got a little mud to work with, but a little bit more difficult. That's you've got to do what you got to do, and that's with any business.
Yeah, I've seen some of the muckouts that happen down there, and it's like that would take a crew in California like 2 days to do. Dude, these guys are mopping right through it, though. It's like old hat to them.
Yeah, I mean, I had one earlier this year that overnight it rained and it filled the entire pool up all the way to my forms. It wasn't shot. We had steel in it already, waiting to get shot, and water all the way up to my forms. We had to pump it out and the next day and get in there with shovels and throw it out and wash the steel off, get all the mud off of it, and then get it shot. But yeah, Yeah, man, it's tough. It's very tough work. I got to give my guys a lot of credit because a lot of times it is a lot of shovel work and a lot of hot weather, and you're sweating. For instance, today, I mean, we had to wear boots today because it did rain a couple times, and my socks were wet from sweat, not from the rainwater or from the being in a wet ditch. It's just because we were sweating so much. That's uncomfortable, and that's what makes it tough.
I think it's like, you got to take the good with the bad and being a custom high-end builder, because you're not really doing like turnkey cookie cutters there.
That's right. That's right. I tell my guys it's just part of the job. It's not every day we're gonna have to do this, but maybe today we do, but it's not every time. And and there's some good benefits to doing what we do. I mean, we get to see some phenomenal houses and some projects that are just amazing. And my guys, we've built lazy rivers, and we've built water parks, and we've built a pool with an island in it. And there's just things that we are able to do, and at the end of the day, it's been hard work, it's been tough work, it's been hot work, but we're able to go at the end of the day and see, guys, this was nothing but a grass field when we got here, and now this is what we've created. We've built this. There's a lot of pride my guys taking in being able to do that, and I try as much as I can to make sure they see that back end. Once it's plastered, once the pool running, just so they appreciate what it is they're doing. Because if all they see is that front end where they're in the hole with the mud and with the steel and the concrete, and I need them to understand, hey, there's more to it, just that. This is what you're doing.
It's nice to be able to see the end result of all your labors.
Yeah, we did a pool a little over a year ago, and the pool's almost 2,000 square feet, and it's 13 feet deep. And the homeowner wanted it so he had a balcony coming off of his outdoor kitchen bar area, and he wanted to be able to jump off that 10-foot balcony into the pool. So we designed it to make sure it was deep enough and big enough that he could jump off of it. And well, he decided he wanted to put a 75-foot dolphin water slide off that same balcony. So we put that in, and we finished it up about 2 weeks before Christmas, and of course, every one of my guys had to go down the slide, and we got to jump off, the balcony and swim in it. And that made for those guys, we'd spent probably 2.5 months up there, almost day in, day out, working on that job. It was huge. And at the end of it, even though it was cold, water was 50 degrees, every one of them wanted to slide down that slide. And we'd spend all this time building and jump off that balcony. And that's cool. I'm so happy for my guys to be able to do that. I wish I could do it for every job, but I definitely let them do it on those special ones like that.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, basically, you're building more of the high-end stuff. It's not a fiberglass pool or a cookie cutter pool. I mean, you got your fingers on the pulse down there in Baton Rouge about what customers really typically want to see in a high-end luxury design. So tell us, I mean, what are some of the things that these customers are asking for in these backyards? Hey, will you back?
Yeah, man, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I'm on Wi-Fi. No telling.
It's okay. Technology,
Yeah, right. No doubt.
All right. So we could pick up right where we left off. All right. Basically, I had asked you, what customers typically want to see in a high-end luxury design.
We're getting a lot of requests for the glass tile. Again, I've said before, I try to push people away from it. It is problematic in our area. One, I don't have the skilled laborers. They're kind of they can be difficult to work with and get them to do it right. But also sometimes with that glass tile, because of the heat, you can run some issues. I've had issues with the tiles popping off because of the weather, and it's sometimes hard to get it to adhere properly just because we have so much moisture in our air as well. We're running 98, 99, 100% humidity. You just have to, it just takes more steps and more precautions. And so we have a lot of folks asking for the glass tile. Just about everybody wants it. Some folks will back off of it just because it does get pretty expensive because of the labor and the materials are a little bit higher. We've had a few folks ask about acrylic walls, and I really want to do one, but what I fear with that is that we are the wrong LA for that kind of look. We're Louisiana, LA, not Los Angeles. In fact, I had a client the other day, mentioned that to me because we were talking about them and I was trying to persuade them into, looking at and considering the acrylic. I have had a few customers ask about it. I know of a couple other builders here who have put a few in, but I just don't think that fits necessarily in our style. It takes a special client who has a certain taste that wants that. Just about all of my clients now are asking for in-floor cleaning systems, which that's a huge change for us. Actually, we've been doing them for years and years and years. I enjoy putting them in. I think they work phenomenally well, but most of the time people have just kind of gone away from it because they're so much more expensive than just a robot cleaner or a Polaris or a Legend. So I have seen a tremendous uptick in floor cleaning systems. Folks, I guess they're at their house now and they know they're going to be there and they want to make sure when they go out to swim, they don't have any issues. And so, hey, I love putting them in. Again, like I said, yeah, I bet we have probably, of the 25, 30 pools that I've started this year, I bet I've put them in 18 of them, maybe 20 of them. They've been very popular recently. Again, that's just one of those things. A lot of folks here see that as being just a step above.
With luxury pools, I think one of the things that really sets them apart, particularly those builders and those pools, is not always the designs and the extra features that are there, but it's the details that the builders are focusing on. I mean, there's a lot of guys that do good pools, but they don't focus in on some of those hard details that are in those what we call luxury pools. Whether it's making sure cuts are of tile or stone or exact, making sure lines are clean. That's where a lot of times a lot of the luxury comes into a swimming pool. Not just having glass tile makes it luxurious, and not just having a stone deck makes it that way, but having those elements and having the details that go with it. That's what sets a lot of those builders apart from other builders.
So those customization options are the things that you feel really set it apart and make it a high-end luxury pool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we go into a meeting with a client, nothing's off the table. I mean, we will customize it however they want to customize it, and we'll figure those details out. Even if it's something we've never done, I've got friend. We are in part of Tributary group, and so we're fortunate. And I've got friends that have, if I've not done it, maybe they've done it, and so I'm able to bounce ideas off other pool builders and figure out the details to make whatever our clients want to work. I think that's kind of one of the things that really separates a lot of these high-end luxury builders from other pool builders is they're willing to focus and spend the time on those details. Whereas a lot of guys, they're okay just building a pool, and that's fine. But it's those details, it's that attention to the detail that really sets these guys apart.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a really what a lot of guys tell me about Tributary Revelation is that just having that network of elite guys in their class, and just having a bunch of guys who you can call on if you have a high-end mosaic tile project, or if you have a really complicated hydraulics issue or something like that.
Correct. I mean, I think a lot of guys get in trouble. A lot of times is they bite off more than they really know what they're doing. I've got friends in my area who've tried to do negative edge pools and don't understand the hydraulics, and they just think you're building a weir wall and turning a pump on. And if your hydraulics aren't right, man, that can crush a company because it gets expensive to go back in there and repair, or go in and add another line because you don't have enough suction or whatever it might be. I think that's a lot of what separates a lot of these high-end builders from the other guys. They're willing to dive in and research and make sure whatever they're selling is going to work.
Everybody else's pool. That's something that not everybody is going to offer to them.
Well, you got a very French colonial type of style down there. I mean, it's like shotgun house. Yeah, I mean, you're not really going to see much of these vanishing edge pools in those kind of backyards,
Well, and I was going to say, even even if they were asked for, most of our land is so flat to put one in, you almost have to manufacture the elevation change. I mean, I don't have
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
cliff like y'all have in California that you can just build a house on and then put a pool out there. It just flows off into the water, into nothing. I just don't have those elevation change. Now, I have done quite a few of them though. There are some spots I have one that's got like a 9-foot drop from the upper pool to the basin. I've got one right now on the place called False River. It's got a negative edge on it, 40-foot long wall on it. So I mean, there are places, and there are folks that absolutely jump on that because they know, hey, I've got this property that this works out great for. Let's put that in and let's do that. I have done the lazy river, and that was a residential pool. And that lazy river was 250 foot long, which that's long for a resort, let alone someone's backyard. And that was kind of that particular homeowner, his mentality was, I've traveled to all these resorts. I don't want to have to travel to them anymore. I'm just put it in my backyard. And he had the acreage and he had some elevation. So we actually got a negative edge pool that flows into his lazy river. And that was a blast. I mean, I love doing that. I wish I could do another one of those, but that's a special client that takes that because you got to have a lot of space and you really have to have a lot of money because it's pretty expensive to put in. And when it starts getting that big, it gets pretty expensive to maintain, to be honest with you. So, we don't have in Louisiana the sheer number of high earners as you would in other places. I mean, there are a lot of folks who have a lot of money here, but not the same kind of money and not the same quantity of people with that money like you do in Phoenix and LA's and Miami's and places like that. We just don't have that tool to pull from, I guess. We try to do as many as we can though. I wish I could do all of them.
I mean, but I still see a lot of high-end luxury design work coming out from that neck of the woods. I mean, just from the stuff I've seen alone, coming out of your design studio, I mean, I could get a sense that, that they are building high-end pools over there for sure. I mean, even if you're getting, a certain percentage of that market share. I mean, when you think about, what your percentage is based upon what the whole market is, it's probably, a pretty substantial market when you think about it,
You're probably correct. I mean, because if we do, 50 pools a year, and for instance, maybe I would say 25 or of that really super high end, I consider luxury pools. I bet there's probably between 500 and 1,000 pools built in Baton Rouge. So that's a pretty good percentage. You're right with that. But I guess sometimes I just maybe take some of that for granted because that's what that's kind of what we do. Every pool that we have come in is they're so, let me put it this way. I'm only seeing certain pools. I'm not getting the leads for a lot of these cookie cutter pools and whatnot because that's not where we fit in.
Well, that's why you're not a volume builder. Yeah, I mean, because you're not building a steel wall and you're not building vinyl liner, you're not building fiberglass, you're building the high end.
Yep.
Well, I mean, your family builds a lot of pools, and as far as putting a dollar emphasis on how much more it's costing to build a pool, I mean, what would you say it's gone up the last 2 years?
Oh, it's gone up at least 25%, at least. I mean, I could tell you, I know for certain, like my PVC pipe has gone up 320% from last year. Everybody knows lumber prices are up. I've been fortunate. Our concrete prices have not gone up a lot here. I know some guys have felt fault with that, but we've been fortunate. But still, all in all, between shortages and extended times and extended freights and having to pay more to get things here quicker, I mean it's at least 25% increase in our cost. What's bad is a lot of that cost that we've incurred doesn't necessarily always get put into the project. The customer doesn't see any of that. Some of that we've had to just absorb into us, and that's that I don't think that's unique to us. I think a lot of, especially some of these older family businesses like us, that a lot of times we'll do a project on a handshake and a smile, and when we're dealing with that kind of that old school mentality, it's sometimes hard to go back to the well and say, hey, our prices, even though they've gone up, I don't know. So my business, he's my uncle, he's in his 60s. He has got a totally different mentality than me. I don't mind going and ask for that money. I think if you've done the work and you've been upfront with the client and said, hey, this is what's happening, these are the costs that we're incurring for your project, I don't think it's anything wrong with asking that client to pay for that. But that old school mentality that my uncle has, it's sometimes, he just does not want to go ask for extra money, and that's fine. We'll make it up somewhere down the road. At some point there'll be something that, we're able to do extra work, or we'll get an extra job out of it because we were able to take care of that client. And it's one thing I have learned about him, learned from him, specifically, is that, I could go and badger somebody for an extra $1,500 because that material cost me $1,500, but it's better to have that client go tell 10 of his friends that, hey, Russell took care of us. Yeah, it cost them all this extra money to get my material in, and they didn't charge me for it. They're going to take care of you. And that, especially in our world, in our market, in that luxury niche that we're in, that's worth 10 times that. Because we're not going to spend our money in a whole bunch of advertising. We're not going to be in a bunch of magazines and a bunch of different, radio or TV or any of that kind of stuff. A lot of our advertising, just word of mouth. And it's from, we've taken care of this client, even though it may cost me a little money. I've taken care of them. That's pretty much becomes our advertising budget, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, you're a straight shooter, where it gets around.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the things we've always prided ourselves at Russell Pool. We take care, we service what we build. So we have a service company, and we handle all of our warranty for all of our clients. So they don't have to find somebody else to come fix something if, a motor goes out or whatever may happen. I've got guys on staff that, we take care of all their warranty stuff for them. And we've always prided ourselves on that. And we've never left a job not finished. No matter how the job is going, no matter whose feelings have been hurt or who's upset, we're going to make sure everything is done right to make sure that client's happy, even if we don't get paid for it. There's been several jobs that, we've had to go back and fix something, and we still get shorted our final retainage. And that's okay sometimes. I'll let karma take care of that person. If that's how they feel they needed to be, that's on them. I'm not going to take them to court, because the only person who gets rich in court's an attorney. And so, that's sometimes just part of being a business and doing things right. And it's sometimes a tough pill to swallow, but nevertheless, that's kind of how we run things. And I don't think it's a bad way.
Lee, because you deal with such high-end clients, and they are used to having things done in such and such a fashion, and they can be very litigious people, what do you do in terms of setting a level of expectations with them right now, particularly during COVID, when things are taking longer to build and materials are costing more, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for you to honor a contract that was cut a year and a half ago, just getting around to their dig now, no?
Yeah. We're upfront with individuals. We're not going to try to hide anything from them. If it's going to take me 6 to 8 months to get your materials in here, I'm going to let you know. And hey, I'm going to give you the option. We can stick with this. There's other things that you can do. They may cost you more. They may cost you less. And then put it on the client to make that decision. I want them to be the ones that are making that decision, not me. So if they want white quartzite on their pool right now, and it's going to take them 6 to 8 months to get it in, it's going to take 6 to 8 months. And there's nothing I can do about it, and they can get all upset, but we've had the conversation beforehand. And at the end of the day, I can say we've talked about this, and there's nothing else I can do about it. We can finish your pool and we can finish the deck at another time, or we can just keep waiting and you're not done. It's up to y'all. And, we've not had anybody that, threatened to sue us because we couldn't get anything in. Or any of that kind of stuff here. I've heard some other guys that have been threatened that way, but I don't. Now I'll say this: we are fortunate because we are such an old company. We've got some very strong relationships with our suppliers, so they want to take care of us and they're willing to take care of us. And if I need something, they're going to do their best to find it for me, or if not, find a suitable substitute for me. And that's difficult sometimes, but at the same time, I've got a warehouse right now that looks like SEP. I've got so much stuff that I've been stockpiling for over the last year because we kind of saw this coming. We knew that there were going to be issues with supply chain, and so we've kind of were proactive in it, and we started spending capital in building inventory. And so,
That's forward thinking. Yeah, that's good.
I hate to say it on the podcast because the folks are going to hear this, but I mean, I've got Peter sitting in my office because I knew last year and I was able to see what was going on and predict that this is where we were going to be. So now if I can't get it from my local pool corp, I've got one in stock that I can pull and supply and fill in where I'm lacking. Same thing with lights and I did that with just about everything last year. I bought PVC pipe. Been great for me because while everybody else is paying 320% more for their pipe this year, you know what? I'm paying what I paid pre-COVID pricing on. So, and I'm still using that. I still have some of that stock. I'm actually getting really close to being out of it. So I'm about to be in the same boat as everybody else with PVC. I mean, the ones who are going to be here working, still doing this in 2-3 years are the ones who've done that.
Yeah.
I don't apologize for it at all. I know it does sound like hoarding, but I wouldn't apologize for it. Every filter set that I send in, whether it needs a heater or not, I put it on there because if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. But at the end of the day, my clients are going to be taken care of. And that's really what I care about. As far as business goes, I'm worried about my clients. And, it sounds rough. It's, it's kind of,
it's a competitive market. And your
right.
business on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I sound like an asshole. I know it, but that's just, sometimes that's what you have to do to survive in business.
Tell it like it is, man. I mean, that's why I had you come on the show. I mean, basically, you're one of the top builders in your area. They should hear it from the horse's mouth. I mean, basically, what's the lead time right now if you're a customer and you're listening to this podcast, or you're a pool builder out there, and you need a finger on the pulse of what to tell your customers, how long a pool takes to build. I mean, hear it from the horse's mouth. Hear it from Lee.
Yeah.
Lee, how long does it take to build a pool right now?
Right now, if you were to call my office today and start the conversation with us, you would probably be 1 to 2 months before you got a phone call back to set up a design meeting. Then you've got your design process that may take 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Sometimes depends on the client. It could take 12 weeks. But so that's on them. But once the design processes start, we've got a signed contract and plan. I would start your pool sometime in October right now. That's when I think I have my next open date. So you're October, November getting started, and then you're going to be 6 to 8 weeks from there. So you if you call me today, I might have you swimming for January 1.
And realistically, what's the weather like? That may hold you back. When's it going to start raining and permits and all that craziness that adds to the equation? I mean, what realistically is the turnaround time?
Yeah, that really is realistically, I can get if I have a contract in hand and once I have an open date, which is right now October, I could have it done by the end of the year. 2 months, I could have a pool done. It's the process of getting to that point because right now the weather, I've never seen the weather like it is this year in Baton Rouge. We've had just so much rain, and now we're into hurricane season. And if I have a storm come through, everybody gets shut down for a week or two, but it depends on how bad it is. So we're telling folks, you're not going to get you're not going to be able to talk to us as our design crew until a month or two, just because we're that backlogged on design work. We've got a couple of landscape architects we will recommend that we work closely with, and that helps us out a lot because, to be honest with you, if I have a plan already, I can knock a bid out in a couple hours. I can have everything estimated and bid out and a proposal out in 2 to 3 hours if I have a working set of plans. If somebody comes in with just an idea and no plans, then we're talking another 2-3 months down the road because of that conversation and how far behind we are with it. We're not such a big company that I've got a staff of 4 designers and all this other stuff. I mean, it is a small family business. My uncle and myself are partners in this together, and he and I both do all of our in-house designs. And then at the same time, he and I are both running crews and working with subcontractors and meeting with clients and making sure they're happy as the job progresses. And, so the reality is for Russell Pool to design you, one of us has to come into the office, and this time of year is just tough. So, yeah.
You need your
Yeah, that's-
you need your head on a swivel, and you need a crystal ball to be a top builder down in your neck of the woods. So I mean, I appreciate
Well,
you
and
giving me
also-
your 2 cents, man.
I also need a helicopter because, when I've got 10, 12 jobs going on and I've got to be at all of them in a day, I mean, I can put, hundreds of miles on a pickup truck in just one day, just going from job to job to job to job. It's tough, man.
You're
It's
spread
tough.
out.
I wish,
Yeah.
we've been fortunate this past, 6 to 8 weeks. Most of our jobs we've been starting have been close to my office within 15 miles or so. But we do a lot of work on the north side of Baton Rouge, up near the Mississippi state line. There's a pretty, affluent area up that way, and we do a lot of work up there. But I mean, that's an hour and a half drive from office each way. That's tough.
Yeah, you're clocking a lot
you
of
can't-
miles on the odometer. That's for sure.
you can't just hop up there and check the job. You've got a plan to go up there, and then you've got a plan that you can't be somewhere else because you're 3 hours turnaround up there. It's those are the things that just make it really, really difficult where we're at some days.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you checking in with us and giving me your 2 cents on what's going on. I mean, I'm sure guys in the industry will appreciate that as well. And I definitely appreciate the time today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Joe. Anytime, man. I love our industry. I really do.
That's all the time we have today. A huge thank you to our sponsor, Basecrete, the leaders in waterproof bond coats for the swimming pool industry. Please make sure to subscribe, and we look forward to catching you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.